Hey everyone, this is Avinash back with another video. In this video, let's understand about this prompting technique called generated knowledge prompting. So what is generated knowledge prompting? We discussed, by the way, about a lot of prompting techniques already. This is like 4th or 5th in the series. Generated knowledge prompting is like you, before asking the actual question, if you could give a little bit of priming to the large language model, by asking questions relevant to your actual questions but not actual questions. Imagine you wanted to create an itinerary for Paris. Before you actually asking itinerary for the Paris, if you could go to the large language model and ask, hey, how as a place, as a tourist destination is Paris for a recently married couple? What are the 10 first question. Second question can be, what are the 10 restaurants do you recommend to visit in Paris? What are the best croissant places in Paris? What are the 3 historical places in Paris? Tips while traveling to Paris and all that, like priming. You are asking like 4 or 5 different questions first before you actually asking about Paris, before you actually ask about Paris itinerary, right? So this way you're priming large language model to think in a certain way while understanding your context in a better way and getting the final output as it is. Preparing an itinerary is like a 500 word to 1000 word article. It's not super complex to use chain of thought, and you don't need to give any itinerary references or something like that. You could just prepare a mega prompt as discussed below with the proper prompt template and get it done. But the challenge is it might not be very in-depth and tailor-made for you. For that very reason, asking relevant questions before you actually ask the final question would be a very better idea here, right? So now let's talk in terms of say research paper knowledge. So in the research papers, generated knowledge prompting is something like this. Generated knowledge prompting is a technique where you first ask a LLM to provide a useful information about a certain topic before you ask it to create a final product or final answer. This helps to make the final result more detailed and informative. In essence, you're prepping the language model with the relevant information to boost the quality of the output. That's it. And we have 2 steps in generated knowledge prompting. First step is to actually generate knowledge regarding the topic that you are going to ask your final question on. You'll just kind of generate the knowledge. And the second question is integrating the knowledge you already got, right? Say knowledge integration is a process where you combine the information generated by the large language model with the origin question to help the model provide a more accurate and informed answer. Like the last question, you remember, create a travel itinerary for Paris using the relevant information on top. That is when it will give you the best itinerary, and that step is your knowledge integration. First, you ask the large language model for the facts about. This is another example. First, you might ask facts for the Eiffel Tower, and you might 2 facts. Now, you want large language model to write a social media post about the Eiffel Tower, but this time you include those facts in your request. Write a post about Eiffel Tower in the Paris, which was built for the 1899 World's Fair, right? So you could do the knowledge integration in 2 parts, guys. One, you could literally, if it's a small fact or something, you could just ask the final answer and add your fact also there. But sometimes here you ask 10 different restaurants, 10 different things, 10 different that, 10 different this. The output you already got on the top is like a huge. So sometimes you can't integrate all that knowledge here. So you could just add in this word called, hey, I need a travel itinerary for Paris. Based on the above information, create me an in-depth Paris itinerary for 7 days for 2 of us. Something like that. You see, you're not actually integrating the information literally by copy-pasting, but actually asking ChatGPT to refer, or any large language model to refer the above answers while creating an answer for this question as the output. That's it. So that's like the whole thing. The first step is you're asking a question, general knowledge is being generated. You ask 1, 2, 3, here. And then the last step is integrating the knowledge, and you will get an answer here. So that's how the whole flow goes. And I'll first show you an example of how this generated knowledge prompting works. For marketers, so the prompt 1 would be something like this. Guys, you could not just use just one prompt. Knowledge generation is just not one prompt. In this example, we're just using one prompt for time being and for ease, but you could ask ChatGPT to basically answer 8 different questions before you going and answering asking the final question, right? Imagine you wanted to write a book. Before you actually asking ChatGPT to write the first chapter, you could literally ask ChatGPT to write different characterization of each, and what are the best analogies we could use to describe that, describe this, something relevant to that generated knowledge. Then you are integrating that knowledge into a chapter wise summary or something like that. So now if you see, we're actually asking this question: assume the role of seasoned digital marketing strategists with over 2 decades of experience in the industry. Throughout your career, you observed and adapted to rapidly changes in digital marketing tools, platforms, and best practices. Provide a comprehensive overview of a major shifts in digital marketing strategies, dealing the rise and the fall of various platforms, the evolution of consumer behavior online, and the impact of technology advancements on the marketing campaign. So this is what it gave us, different approaches, different thing, rise and fall of various platforms, blah blah blah, like major shifts. It gave us all the major shifts that happened in the first prompt. Now we're going to ask: construct a detailed timeline that traces evolution of digital marketing from the early 2000s to 2020 right now. So this timeline should compass of pivotal technological innovations, blah blah blah. Additionally, integrate data from a reputable marketing research sources to substantiate the trends and shifts highlighting in the timeline, offering insights and effectiveness of ROI and various stages of the use. That's all. So this is how you get answer right now. So would you get something like this if you just have copy pasted this? Maybe. But to be more sure and more accurate, if you just ask it to generate knowledge first and then integrate that knowledge by asking the next follow-up and final question you have in your mind, that's when you get a better detailed answer. You see, now for everything, the dawn of digital presence, the rise of social media and SEO, mobile domination and content marketing 2011 to 2015, 2016 to 2017, personalization, AI and data privacy, and the glance of evolution, all the evolutions, and then conclusion. Do you think this is a very good article by ChatGPT? And trust me, the answer might not be like this if you would have just copy pasted this in the similar one, so into the single one. So yeah, that is the one example. That's one example, and let's understand this for the students. And by the way, programmers, Madhu, who is our programming and developers mentor, will be doing all this prompting walkthroughs for all the programmers. We have all the programmers programming techniques, right, also, so which we have here, where Madhu created these techniques. So he will be explaining dedicatedly for programmers. But even for Madhu, to understand Madhu's example, you need to kind of understand this whole journey first. You need to understand my thing, so that non-technically you'll be perfect, and for technical people and the developers, you might watch the Madhu's one, which will be attached in the same module. So now let's understand it for the students right now. Act as an expert plant physiology professor. I want you to shed some light, blah blah blah, on photosynthesis or whatever. So you're now asking some knowledge generation part, and then ChatGPT will generate the knowledge. Your final question here is very simple. Now, using this information you have generated about the photosynthesis, could you explain the process in detail and easy to understand manner for a high school student? Please start from the absorption of light, describe the role of chlorophyll, and blah blah blah. So now we are asking it to basically generate all the knowledge. Then using that knowledge, we're asking it to explain this process in a detailed and easy manner and convert that process to a basically high school student. So to ask that, we need to first ask ChatGPT to actually generate the complex part. as if it is generating for a normal person. Then we're asking it to generate or convert the same knowledge as if it is a student, or as if you are a student and it's writing for you. Now this will be better. Like basic overview of photosynthesis, organisms that perform photosynthesis, importance of photosynthesis process, and stuff like that. Absolutely. And gathering ingredients, the chef's kitchen, the chloroplast, cooking with light dependent reactions. You see, ChatGPT is able to understand and explain it to you in a way that is like very easy for a high school student to understand. Chef's magic, sunlight, kitchen, the chloroplast. Plants absorb CO2 from the air through small pores on their leaves called stomato, and H2O from the soil, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. For students to be able to convert any complex topic in a easier way, just ask ChatGPT to first generate the basic part as a professional physiologist or some professional in that particular area, and then ask it to convert that particular thing as if you're a high school student and explain it to a step-by-step manner. That's it. No? So how many students here think this is actually a very good understanding and explanation in the second time than the first time? First time it's like energy source, oxygen production, and blah blah blah, and little monotonous or little hectic. And whenever here you see location, key components, how it works, caption, chlorophyll molecule observes life, getting all excited. Anyways, so those are the two examples, and we could even do this for the business owners. You're a business owner of a travel agency company. You're trying to create a travel itinerary for your client. So the prompt one is to generate knowledge. By the way, I'm saying you again, knowledge generation can happen in multiple steps. Just for the sake of these examples to be a little faster and not boring, we are creating it in only one prompt to knowledge generation and one prompt to knowledge integration. You could do it in multiple knowledge generation steps, and then obviously knowledge integration will be in only one step, because you'll use all the knowledge that was generated above and integrate into one answer. So instead of asking the popular tourist destination, like itinerary, we're asking popular tourist destinations, best times to visit, local cuisine, culture norms and tips, blah blah blah. Then we'll ask ChatGPT to create an itinerary which would give us a better itinerary than before. Yeah. So now it is giving us a little better itinerary. Day 1 morning you should do this, day 2 afternoon, day 1 afternoon you should do this, and it will go on and on. And I'm not sure if we even set the 3-day itinerary. Yeah, 3-day itinerary. We set the 3-day itinerary. It will just give us the best possible itinerary. You enjoy lunch here, explore this, and then Italian phrase. It is giving Italian phrases also to be little, local, to sound like local or whatever. And yeah, don't you think this itinerary is like very in depth for 3 days? And it would give you 7 days, 6 days itinerary as well from the information it generated, right? So that's all. So that's how additional Italian phrases and embrace the Italian way of living, where the meals are over the history is surest and the beauty of life, blah 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 blah. And that's all. So that's all about knowledge generation. But then first, now also understand a few limitations of this. A dependency on the initial information. The quality of the final output will be highly dependent on their initial set of facts or information provided. If the initial knowledge generation phase yields inaccurate or relevant facts, the final product may also be flawed or misleading. So whenever it is generating knowledge, it's your responsibility to actually fact check yourself before you integrate that knowledge in the final step. Potential for redundancy. If the language model is already aware of certain facts, repeatedly prompting it with the same information can lead to redundant or repetitive kind of final output. When you feel that you could get you have two options, right? You could just use mega prompt that we already gave you the format and stuff like that with all the mega prompt library, or use this generated knowledge prompting. Whenever you think mega prompt is more than enough, use mega prompt only. Just because this is an advanced prompting technique, using advanced prompting technique for the basic tasks will actually give you worst answers. Sometimes using the basic prompts are better. So the reason why I'm saying you different advanced prompting techniques is because who knows, you might need very complex things. So just because I'm saying you generative knowledge prompting is best, mostly you don't need 90% of the times. 10% of the times where you have some bigger issues, bigger complex tasks, that's when you need to use this. Don't just use it for namesake just because you're an advanced certified prompt engineer. That will yield not so good results. And increased complexity, obviously the two-step process of knowledge integration and generation and integration is little complex than the normal mega prompt technique. So risk of over reliance. Users might become overly reliant on this technique, assuming that it is always enhancing output quality. No, it is not. But this is good for certain complex things. So the goal here is, first, it's just like a doctor, right? Probability checking. So whenever you have a task, you need to actually see what technique might yield you better result and what technique is just appropriate, not more, not less. It should be appropriate and fit with your requirement. And this, you are going to figure it out over the period of next 2 to 3 months when you use each and every technique for maybe 10-15 times. So whenever there is actual need, use it, or else don't use it. It will not yield any better results. And use cases for generative knowledge prompting with ChatGPT or any large language model, by the way. You could write research papers just by using generative knowledge prompting, whenever the knowledge is like very infinite and then it's very complex, and you could use this prompting technique. You could use this for business presentations, you could use for recipe creations, travel itinerary planning, which we discussed. You could actually use this for book or movie recommendations as well. Instead of generic recommendations, by feeding summaries of current trends, users can receive recommendations that are both in line with popular culture and tailored to their specific references. So I feel this is actually a very good technique for that also. And that's all for this video. Generative knowledge prompting it is, and see you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.